I'm trying to get to you at the back, but it's difficult for me to see. The lady, yes. Can you get a microphone to her? Yes, the lady with 2 hands up now.
I have more a comment rather than questions. I agree with the mayor that we have the chance in London to live together people from different civilizations. I would like to make a point. We don't want a global civilization, for God's sake. That sounds totalitarian. We want the freedom to coexist various civilizations in this world. Then, I agree with the Chancellor that the states try to change the map in the Middle East. And I agree with the professor that there are Muslims in London, in Britain, and in the world, that they try to take over the world as much as the states want to do that. That's my point.
Thank you very much. Now, what I thought was the back of the hall is actually the back of the front of the hall. Yes! At the very back of the hall. Can we possibly, by wonders of technology, get a microphone to... There's 2 people at the very back of the hall. Can we get a microphone to at least one of them, please? Now the front people are complaining. We'll get back to you, sir. Yes, right at the back of the hall.
Thank you very much. My name is Loida Fanusi from Haringey. I listen to the 2 sides, and I can say categorically that they have given me more food for thought in the sense that we cannot look at either side and say this is correct and this is wrong. In terms of civilization, going back to the past, when you talk about the barbarians, you are talking about the Greeks and the barbarians. Because if you were able to read and write Greek and so on, you were civilized. And if you were not, then you were looked upon as a barbarian. In our own time, who is the barbarian and who is the one who is civilized? I would like you to explain that to me. Now,
thank you, madam. I'm trying to get down as many people as possible. Douglas Murray, who's the barbarians and who's civilized?
Well, civilized people are the people who believe in the rule of law. And I believe that among the things which makes people civilized is the rule of democracy. That is why I explained earlier, and would reiterate now, that I believe that democracy is not the sole right of the West, it's not the sole right of Londoners or British to enjoy this. I believe that democracy is something that all peoples can enjoy. And anyone, I can't think why so many people disagree with that notion. To me it seems eminently sensible, and it's not, my Hespers, not about making the whole world America or making the whole world British. It is about making the whole world free. That is a different thing. Nobody went into Iraq, nobody went into Afghanistan to make those people Americans. Nobody went in there to make them like us, like anyone in this hall, like London. The hope is, and I may think this is naive, but I believe that there are many people in the Muslim world who do want democracy, who have the right to vote, should have the right to vote. We should support them. Those people are the civilized people of this world whose side we should be on.
Let me bring in Salma on that. Just let Salma, I'm sure she might take a slightly different view on that. Go ahead.
Now, I think actually that question gets to the crux of the debate. Because what we have here is civilization versus barbarism. But I would argue it is barbarism versus barbarism right now. And everybody else is left outside of that. When I say the barbarism, I would put the neocons as part of the people who are following a barbaric policy. They actually mirror very much the enemy that they claim to fight. They both talk about domination, they both talk about violence in trying to implement that, and they're both anti-democratic. We just heard the last speaker talk about how much he values democracy. Where does he stand on Hamas's election, which was a democratic victory? Why is it, and this is a historical fact, that the US has been implicitly involved in overthrowing democratically elected governments? For example, in 1953 in Iran, in Latin American countries, And I would actually say that both of these barbaric sides are threatened by real democracy. They don't really want to implement what the majority of decent people, whatever background, Muslim, non-Muslim, atheist, Christian, Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, people want genuine peace. But these two feed on each other, and the only difference is that the US right now happens to have greater military might than the other barbarians who like to put their policies into action through means of violence.
My name's Anne Pettifor, and I'm a proud Londoner too that came to this country in the 1960s to escape from apartheid South Africa. And I have to say that I find the resonance of the debates today with what was being said in South Africa about communists, about academics, the way in which academics were targeted because they did not agree with the nationalist, racist apartheid regime. But also what was striking was how much that regime was supported both by the United States and Britain. But I want to say to Douglas Murray, if he believes so strongly in the rule of law and in democracy, what is his position on the British government's support for the Saudi regime, and in particular for the sale of the corrupt way in which the British government has negotiated a sale of arms through British aerospace? Where is law there, and does he support that, and what does he say about democracy?
Thank you. Thank you. I will answer it. It's a fairly easy point. I am not a spokesman for the British government. I don't agree with the British government on a lot of points. So I can perfectly easily answer your question with saying that I detest the Saudi regime. I would like to see the end of it. I believe it's a terror-sponsoring regime, and I don't believe we should be supporting it. What is the problem?
Hi, Monica Crowley from Westminster One Radio in the United States, and my question is directed to the mayor. We've heard a lot of the use of the word clash in this conversation today, and I'd like to ask you about an apparent clash between two of your biggest constituencies, because to me it seems indicative of the broader clash that we're talking about today. On the one hand, you have a very liberal left-wing base that values freedom. Freedom for women, women's rights, freedom to express sexual orientation, freedom to worship as one wishes or not to worship at all, freedom to choose a religion or to leave a religion. On the other hand, it seems that you embrace an Islamist constituency that in fact is antithetical to those very freedoms and in fact seeks to erase those freedoms. So I'd ask you, sir, as a leader of a democratic system, operating within those confines of the democratic system, seems to me that those two constituencies appear to be on a collision course. How would you reconcile those two forces? Thank you.
The position is Islam will evolve and be changed from within. Politicians standing outside and denouncing things they don't like about Islam will be no more productive than the transformation of Christianity here. Because when this was a devoutly Christian society, when this was a society in which you could not go to university unless you were a member of the Church of England, not even the other Christian groups, when this was a society which imprisoned people for being homosexuals, when this was a society that drove women into the house and did not allow them to fulfil their objective, it wasn't changed by people outside denouncing it. It was changed by gays and women and progressives and trade unionists and socialists campaigning for reform from within. And therefore, I look for the person I'm closest to. And I'm, as I said, many disagreements with Sheikh Karadari on these issues, but I recognise that within the range of the leading Islamic theologians, he represents hundreds of millions of supporters, and he is leading the debate, along with Tariq Ramadan, about how Islam can engage with the Western world and engage with technology, and we put to one side the disagreements we have to work on the issues with which we agree. And that is the approach I take right the way across all the political lines that I have to strike.
Everybody wants to get into this. I will come to that lady who's very patient with the red checks in just one moment, but just in a moment, madam. I'd just like to go through the panel. Everybody wants to talk on this.
If it is true that Islam is going to evolve from within, then what on earth is the mayor doing? What is he doing today, and what is he doing in his whole project, as with Karadawi, of elevating certain voices within the Muslim community? Why does he choose as one of his questioners Inyak Banglawala, who has a whole track record of praising Osama bin Laden, of the 1993 World Trade Center bombers, of describing the press as being run by the tribe of Judah? Ladies and gentlemen, why, if you don't want to get involved and it will evolve from within, are you getting it so wrong?
So,
I take issue with this notion that Islam in itself is somehow anti-women or anti-freedom. I happen to be a Muslim, a very visible one, as you can see, and I am motivated to a large degree by my own faith. And I find those very same concepts, the issues of freedom, the issues of equality of women, the issue of live and let live, there is no compulsion in religion. It's a verse of the Quran. So I take issue with other Muslims who choose to interpret in a way where they feel they have the right to impose on others, be they Muslims or not. I would, on a theological faith basis, argue against that. So in the same way, I don't like to put into this monolithic block by people who, for political reasons, find that as an easier and more lazy way to approach things. Just as Christianity is diverse, you have a liberation theology end, and then you have a very reactionary conservative end. In the same way, Islam has its strands. And what we're saying is the people who are there to stand up for all people, regardless of their background, and find common cause, should be being encouraged, not vilified. We are following a democratic, humane path, and I don't see what your problem is with that.
I do want to go to you, madam. Just
on the question of Karadawi, Mr. Livingstone, you have said repeatedly today that he is combating the socially regressive interpretations of Islam. But as I'm sure you're aware by now, he sanctions the killing of homosexuals. He sanctions the killing of apostates from Islam. He sanctions female genital mutilation. He sanctions violence by husbands against wives. He demands that a husband compel his wife to wear the hijab. And he says that tsunami victims of 2 years ago deserve their fate. This is not a socially progressive message.
Okay.
Thank you, Gavin. My name is Vivian Woolston. I'm the founder of an organisation, a charity, Thursday's Child, a celebration of faith. Basically, I stand before you as a business person turned peace worker since the London bombings. My statement that I want to make to Daniel, I'm not hearing any solutions from you. Surely hate breeds hate. And, in your statement, most eloquently given, sir, the words that we have to defeat the enemy, I'm very uncomfortable with those words.
Your being uncomfortable with those words does not surprise me. The notion of victory has almost disappeared from our vocabulary. And I find myself shocking people, as I guess I did yourself, in saying we must win this war. There's a general expectation that wars can be solved through compromise, that wars can be negotiated to a conclusion. And yet, if you look more closely, for example, at the Vietnam negotiations of 35 years ago, if you look at the Arab-Israeli negotiations of the 1990s, you'll find that they actually don't solve the problem. You find that, in fact, the way wars end is when one side, as I mentioned before, gives up. It no longer has the will to go on. Now, I experienced this myself as an American in 1975 when we gave up in Vietnam. I saw how it happened. We didn't lose because we ran out of bullets. We didn't lose because we ran out of bullets or soldiers or the economy collapsed. We ran out of will. And that is the key. If one wants to have a solution to problems, one has to impose one's will on the enemy. Now, this is not joy and peace and goodwill. No, this is war. War has been declared on us. The Islamists have declared war on us. Are we going to respond to
that? Thank you, Chair. I'm Harbjan Singh, Chair of Multi-Faith Forum in Bexley. While I was standing here, 68 young, for the last 2 hours, and waving my hand for the last an hour and a quarter, I was wondering why my father and why my grandfather took part, on the part of the Allied forces and fought, for freedom and democracy. Why did he do that? And I was also wondering, I need a question about that answer. I was also wondering, when I came here 40 years ago, we do